This is
the Stall the Whidden podcast with your host, PJ Mongan.
So I was born in Well Park in Galway, and then we moved to Hillside, into the houses in Hillside, and that's where I basically most of my life grew up.
That's where. So back in Well Park, that was when they had the tents and the huts
and the caravans. Yeah,
that was before they had the houses.
Yes,
no houses in Well Park site. Yeah, there's see the clip of that on YouTube, or it's on the RT website. Well Park 1978. You see them all running around plus.
Yeah,
Bad. It was a bad way now.
Bad place.
Oh, it was a bad state, but people reckon it was better. It wasn't a better place we live in, but it was the people got on better.
Better times.
Yeah. Better times in it.
I would say that as well.
Yeah.
I'd say when we were living in Hillside, like even with your father and your grandmother and all the travellers that was in there, would have been very help each other out.
Very reliant on each other.
Yeah. So an old saying, like I often heard my grandmother saying, like any carty, large person, any. When they were in Well Park, so she'd make a pot of tea. It'd be for everyone that lives there, not just for our own family. So that's just the way it was. It was like, if you had it, everyone had it. And if you didn't have it, other people would share with you. That's the way it was. Now, so times has changed. Now there's so much greed and...
Yeah, people are hell-bent on, as long as they're looked after, they don't care if you're looked after.
Yeah. And bettering each other. 100%.
Push each other down and stuff.
In Hillside, like, it was like... sure, no one had nothing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You might have the odd one. Like my grandfather probably had money back then, but very few then. Do you know what I mean? Outside that, like so.
But it was all the way people worked their heads. Some people were back then times they were very reliant on alcohol, and it wasn't so much drugs. There wasn't really much drugs back then.
No.
But it was more alcohol, and if the few that fell into alcohol, more than likely anything they got went.
Yeah.
Towards alcohol. Or if you had the some that they were still. Go on.
Well, back then, like it was like, so the ways travellers would have got on back then was like, all the kids would do the strand with the parents. Well, I used to, my grandmother, my mother was an alcoholic. So my grandmother would have brought up myself and my brother Willie and, stuff like that. But what would happen is like, we'd all go to the strand, we'd all do our picking. That's with your Uncle Tom and all them people. Everyone done picking, and you'd pick for a certain person, like, so we'd pick for my grandmother. And you might be at the end of the strand, like, could be a week-long strand or 2-week strand. You might get a fiver, but like a fiver was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, yeah.
It's the appreciation of, like, every Christmas, my grandmother had 16 kids herself, and like, every Christmas we would be getting the exact same thing as Coleman and Peter, which is similar age to myself and Willie, so uncles. And the same with your grandmother, Teresa Mongan, and them. We'd all pick together. We'd all, that time we did the Barnicks off the rocks raw. I remember one time your grandmother, they got sandwiches and stuff in the convent in down in Ballybane. They begged the convent on the way down. They got sandwiches and jam jars of tea at that time, but it was raw tea, And so we all, so they brought down them anyway, down to the beach, and they says, now when you fill a boiler bucket, which is about 2.5 stone, 3 stone of winkles, we'll eat the sandwiches and so we're all rushing to get the winkles picked as quick as possible, that we get our bit, because there was a crowd of us. There'll be 20 of us down the beach, like, but there were good times, like, as hard as you had it, everyone was on the same page. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's totally changed.
But it even go to show that even though, like your grandfather there had money, he still wouldn't move away from the rest, because at the end of the day, they were still all the one.
Yeah, I think it was like, my grandfather was, I suppose we were lucky with my grandfather and grandmother. They had kind of...
But they had the mindset for to know that money comes and goes. Yeah. And while you have it, use it wisely.
Yeah. Well, it's a case of, like, he had a great structure, and you kept on the straight and narrow. You didn't do drugs.
Rarely that time drink.
Yeah. Well, with the grandkids, probably not. Back then, my mother was obviously was fond of drink and stuff like that. But none of the rest of the family would have been at that time fond of drink. And, like... they'd all help. It's just the fact of helping each other out. I mean, he was just like, he was Willie Mcdonagh. He was basically over Hillside at the time. Everyone kind of looked at him at the time. But then if anything happened, like I remember funerals there where people couldn't pay for funerals, everyone would
chip in,
help out. Yeah. And I think that's gone.
Yeah.
In a lot of families, and not in all families, we still do it ourselves.
Yeah, I think now it's more like people are embarrassed.
Yeah.
To go and look for the money to bury someone, and it's not even so much that they're embarrassed. I think they're more afraid of being turned away.
Yeah, it's the refusal. It's like, and you should have it, that kind of way. But people don't know other people's circumstances. Like a lot of people is unemployed either by choice or by circumstances. They're unemployed.
Control, yeah.
But like €188 a week wouldn't go far now today. Like
it wouldn't,
with prices and rents and everything else. So you had to do the strands. Merson Crum and all them people that passed away now and died very young. They would have done the strands, but their main line of work was to go off and get our scrap. And that time it was plentiful scrap. Everyone, there wasn't many doing it at the time, but you'd always find a bit or go and get a bit. So there were different times like that. I think now it's like times, especially in traveller culture. I think it's how can I outdo you?
Yeah, that's
more
exactly
than
what
you.
Down to, yeah.
So there's no empathy there of, when I see certain families now, I see where they come from. I've been there.
Yeah.
I came from that same situation. So when you look at that and you're saying, I was that person, I have that empathy of saying, I was there and I could be there again.
Yeah.
My kids could be there. I could, fall into problems or get a drink problem or whatever, an addiction or whatever, and fall down the same path.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees in life, one bit of a struggle or something to happen, and you could end there yourself.
You're back to stage one again.
You're back to, you're with childhood. Now, I think there's, growing up in Hillside and the circumstances we grew up in was probably a good lesson in life that, I don't like drink myself. I've seen the effects of drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You seen what I can do.
Your father's seen the effects of drink,
you see what I can do, so you don't want.
Well, you try to
you try to avoid it.
Avoid it. And then you try to get your kids. I seen, myself as well, like not finishing school and not being educated to now seeing my kids as they have to go through education. That's very important. Do you know what I mean? I think that is changing in travellers a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot more leaving cert students down. There's a lot more college.
Yeah.
Like a cousin of mine there, he recently went back to NUIG. I think he's doing a business studies course in NUIG just simply because now he can.
Yeah.
Where back when he was in his teens, he's seen it as like, oh, it's a waste of time. But now that he's a bit older, he's seen, well, I should have. Because he's not on social welfare, he is working. So I think he can see what work he can get compared to what he's currently doing. Yeah.
I think it's a case of, there's a lot of things. There's an easier route into third level education now than what there was when we were growing up. Like back when we were growing up, school was a special class for travellers. You don't mix with settled community or I remember going to Sister Bridget's and it was all travellers, and like the schooling was absolutely diabolical in the sense of and I do think this even now today with a lot of schools is they're travellers, they're going to leave at a certain age anyway, so what's the point in putting in the effort to them? Like I remember we'd let on to be fighting in class and we'd be sent over to St Mary's school in the pitch to fight each other, and when you finish fighting come back in.
I heard that there an uncle of mine was fighting down the school and the principal came out and gave them boxing gloves.
Yeah.
For to go boxing.
Yeah. But I know we laugh at it now, but it wasn't right.
It wasn't right for a child.
It wasn't right in general. Like
because it's showing a child, well, if you get in a fight, you have to finish it. Instead of saying, well, there's different ways to avoid fighting. It just goes to show.
Well, you don't. What you try to do is like they should be trying to teach us about stuff and learn that that's not the way to go. What stuff like that. But there a lot of stuff went on. Now I met one of my ex-teachers, which was a nun. A few months ago, I was in grabbing stuff for my work in town, and I bumped into her. It must be 20 years since I've seen her. Like, and I was having to laugh at her, like, do you remember this and you remember that, you know, and whatever. But it was this fact that you're isolated and no one really cared, really. Do you know what I mean? About education. The teachers didn't care. We didn't care. Our parents didn't care. I suppose we were so young, we didn't understand.
Well, you should care.
Yes, yeah. Where now, like, even myself, I'd be always telling kids, go to third level. There's nothing for you if you're not educated. And there's not, like, it's like, even in the line of work I am in now with Foroige, it's a case of you have to get a degree to come in. You could be the best person for the job, but you have to have a degree. And that's why I'm saying to, like, all the kids I can is finish school. Like, leaving cert is one thing. And I see a lot of kids, like, leaving school now to go into training centre and stuff for €40 a week.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Well, no, it's not. It's nowhere near worth it because you're missing your education. But you can make thousands later on in life. You can afford to buy your own house. You don't have to do drugs. You don't have to do crime, a life of crime, to get stuff.
Yeah.
If you educate yourself and you can go and work. Do you know, there's work out there now. Do you know, there's, I'd say, a lot more acceptance of travellers going out and working in the shops and youth work like this and other parts of society. You know, there's plenty of work, but we have to kind of educate ourselves enough in order to be able to walk in and hand in our CV the same as the next fella, you know, so that we're equal.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse not to employ us, you know. Education, you're not educated, that we can't. So you eliminate that. So it can be only one thing then they're not employing you for.
It's who you are.
Yeah.
And I think now with the obviously getting the ethnic status and being equals, well, we always were equals, but having more of a right to stand up and say, well, we are who we are and we want to be treated the same as everybody else. We want to be we don't want to be outcasted. We don't want to be told, go away. We want to be told, okay, sir, come in. It's a different story. You do hear a lot of stories there where the youth can be wild, but it's not. It's the same story as you can't paint every canvas with the same brush.
Yeah.
It's like, just because he's wild doesn't mean I'm wild.
I suppose what we like, it's okay saying, oh, we give you this and we give you that, okay? That's only a label. Are we treated equal? Is the question. We're not. We're not equal. Because if we're equal, we'd be allowed into every bar in the town.
Yeah, you're not.
Right?
There's a couple in there that...
We wouldn't be getting follied in shops. You know, there's certain stuff, you know yourself, you go through it. So we're not equal. We're never going to be equal until we educate ourselves enough to be in high-powered positions that we don't have to accept what somebody is saying to us or doing to us. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we have to do. We have to concentrate on educating our kids. I see some kids there now qualifying as barristers and stuff, young travellers and different stuff. It's absolutely fantastic when you hear that, because we're changing. We have to change. We have to go with the times. We can't be left behind no more. All the African kids, I've seen them myself. They're so much driven with education. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Education is number one to them. And why they do that is because they, for years, have done or dealt with the same thing we deal with.
Yeah, the suppression
and slavery and different stuff. So, but they're educating themselves now to be able to go into high positions and not accept what power people are saying to them. Do you know what I mean? So they know they have a platform to talk from. How many travellers do you know that's in platforms that can talk for travellers? Like,
I know John Connors. He's an actor. There's a lot of celebrities. Like, there's Martin Beans Ward. He talks, but then there's a lot of people who think they're celebrities.
Yeah. Like, if you see Martin Beans Ward, he kind of, a lot of his stuff is slagging off travellers. It is like, is that, and people find it funny because he's slagging off his own, you know, which for me, I laugh along with it, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I find them funny, but sometimes I'm saying, do you know what, like, you're just making a fool of yourself. Yeah.
It's a bit like...
You're not doing anything by that. You're, okay, he wants to be successful and fair play to him, the best of luck to him, but there's a certain way of going about it.
Yeah.
And the man you're talking about, the actor, he like, you see the, was it the BAFTA Awards? The BAFTAs. Yeah, he didn't get nominated for that, you know that, because of discrimination.
Yeah.
And when he did win it, then eventually he spoke up about how tough he found it to get there.
Yeah, and the
obstacles he had to go through. Yeah, and the stuff he had to go through to try to get there.
He went through a bad depression.
Yeah. And
he took up acting just as a whim.
Yeah.
Just for to see like what would happen. And then he ended up getting a lot of very critically acclaimed roles.
I would say the most positive influence of a traveller out there now at the minute, and I think he's well respected within all communities, is Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I think what he's done for mental health, he's gone through himself. He knows what it's like to be a traveller. He knows what it's like, weight loss, but just not even that, but he's so empathy to everyone. He's
just down to earth.
He's down to earth, and he's like, a people's person.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
There was a picture there that went viral. Was last Christmas time, where he was seen coming out of like a B&M, which is the equivalent of like a Mr. Price.
Yeah.
And the people were saying, "Oh, millionaire," and he's buying his children cheap toys. And the response he had was, "Their children, they don't know.
Yeah.
Like money's money, and they don't know the difference between a tie that's worth $1 million and a tie that's worth a tenner. Children don't know." But it was just the thought that these people thought that he was going to go in just because of who he is and buy a lot of expensive stuff when he wasn't. He just wasn't.
But what you look at there is, if you look at, even in Ireland here, say, Joe Cannon, different sports people like that, Bundyaki, I seen him in a 211 Seat Jeep yesterday. It's sponsored by Monaghan's. No, that's what happens. So they sponsor these cars to high profile sports people.
To see them driving.
For the people to see them driving their cars, whatever. But Tyson Fury didn't get that.
No.
He didn't get that.
No, he worked.
So that's where you know, now look at Tyson Fury. He's done, you know, he's admitted himself, he's done stupid stuff, you know, himself, and he says stupid things, and we all say stupid things, you know. But I do feel like he's a role model to a lot more than just travellers. I think to a lot of, you know, people that's been suffered depression, and he came out and spoke and tried to help and put on classes in lockdown. He was doing exercise classes for people on you know.
He's on Facebook Live, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was doing,
So he's done wonders for travellers, you know. So not only for travellers, but in general, like, he's done really well, and he's well spoken. And
in the lines of what Tyson Fury has done for the sport of boxing, defeating Vladimir Klitschko, who was undefeated for, how long was he undefeated for? Years.
10 years, 20 years, yeah.
He then for to go on and defeat Deontay Wilder twice, who was known to be the hardest hitter in the history of boxing, twice by 2 stoppages. The first one being a TKO and the second one being a clean knockout. And then for to just be on right now on top of the world, be ranked number 1 heavyweight in the world, for to be a traveller and for to get up there and do that. Other travellers have done, like Billy Joe Saunders. He is also great in the sport, but he's shown that he's not the best. And I think that shows as well to humanity that, like, travellers are not just there to take over. They're there to have fun. Whenever he loses, he's there to say, well, listen, I lost. Fair play to the other man. And it just goes to show that they're not just here to say, well, we're travellers, we can do this, or we can win everything. They're just there to say, we're travellers and we're here. That's all they want, is the recognition for to say, well, we're not just all on social welfare, just sleeping in kips of houses and stuff. We're here.
There's 2 ways of looking at it. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. So successful people like Tyson Fury and people that worked and made money and whatever they done, work-wise, legitimately, like, would be known within the communities that they're involved in.
Yeah.
And within the settled community and other communities. Probably the biggest problem for travellers at the minute is the fact that you see a lot of them driving 50 and 60,000 pound cars and never worked a day in their life.
Yeah.
And you can imagine being from the settled community, you've worked for 20 years or 30 years or
And
whatever the case
you're
may be.
looking in and you're saying like,
and
how?
you can't afford to buy this car or this, and like, you know, a lot of people has to take out mortgages and different stuff, and
But
family
even-
helps them out and different stuff.
Even the travellers that are living in sites, whether it be government-owned sites or private camping sites, the mobiles and the caravans that they have in them are worth big money. They're worth a lot of money, and they're decked out on the inside. They've TVs built into the walls, ovens built in, lights along the rims of the countertops and everything. And it's just like, where's your? And then you ask them, where's their source of income? They say social welfare, and that's what drags them down. It's not so much the social welfare; it's the fact that obviously, like you said, if somebody's looking in from the outside and they're like, well, I'm close to my pension age now, and I don't have near enough to what this man has, and this man's only in his late 30s maybe.
Yeah.
It just goes to show the why the distaste is there for some, but not all.
To a certain extent, yeah. Like with locals, you can understand that. Because they see on a daily basis, you know. I think a lot of the stuff that discrimination we go through at the minute is, I'd say, would be 50% our own fault as well.
Yeah.
Because we're on social media putting up crap, old absolute
There's
crap.
children, and I mean children, 3 or 4 year olds walking around with Rolex watches.
But not only that, but it's like when they have an argument, it's all over
Everything's all over
Facebook.
social media.
It's-
There's
it-
WhatsApp, there's YouTube pages made, and I don't know if they're all run by travellers themselves.
So-
but there's one there called Valhalla Awaits, and I don't think that's a name that a traveller man would pick like. And it's just all you see on it is Joe Joyce and whatever's popular in the bare knuckle boxing scene of Irish travellers.
But
And
you
it's
see, so understand that I'm speaking for myself as a traveller, and I've been brought up in Hillside, and you couldn't get any rougher than Hillside at the time. But there's certain travellers I wouldn't like living beside me.
No,
And that's being
there's
honest
a
with
lot that have brought up their families, instead of bringing them up in a way for to respect and show compassion towards others. They brought them up in a way, well, if they have what you want, you take.
Yeah.
And that's like some people are afraid to live beside travellers for the simple reason that they might have something in their back garden. There could be a lawnmower, could be anything. You wake up and it's gone. And I know people who have done it, who have done these things, and it's just like then the worst part of it all is when either the police come or the person who owns it comes without informing the police. The mothers or fathers come out and say it wasn't their child when they know well that it was. And that's what spurs them on even more to go into the life of crime, because they know there's always going to be somebody there to either back them up or bail them out or do whatever needs to be done. Like,
Yeah. I think there is a pressure in, I know I've done it myself with my own brother, like, there is a pressure within your own family that, say, bailing your one of your family members out. There is a lot of pressure on the person that would have money or would be able to afford to do it. I've done it myself, not by choice, but I was forced into doing it. Forced. What I mean by forced is not someone's going to bait me up
guilt tripped,
or just by my mother saying,
guilt tripped.
"Oh,
and
you know, you can't leave him in there. He you know, you'll have to bail him out. You're the only one that can do it, you know." And it's that pressure from home, like not in a violent way, but pressure from home saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. So I think there's a lot of that we do, that we bail them out and fine bail or whatever the case may be. And then they're doing the same thing.
Back in again.
They're back
bail
doing
again.
the same
No,
thing
the bail's
again.
gone.
Yeah.
And then your money's gone.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as I'll pay you back whenever. That doesn't really get said in my family.
I think for me, I know when I bailed my own brother out, like, I didn't want to bail him out because of what he done. I just didn't agree with. I don't agree with a lot of stuff. But and then to see, it's not even about the money. It's for me, it's all about respect.
Yeah.
So like, if you're going to do something, do it. And if you say you're not going to do something, well, then that's okay. I know where I stand. You're not going to do it, and that's okay. I accept that. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to fall over it. But it's the thing of, like, you go and bail somebody out, or you go and do something for someone, and exactly what they told you they're not meant to do,
They're going to do.
they're doing. And that's the lack of respect. Then you say, how, why did I even do that? Like, I remember my brother then got, what was it, 5.5 years, I think, that time. He got 5.5 years for what he done. I went to the court and everything like that, stuff like that. But I remember I was really mad at the time over what happened, what he done, and then having to bail him out, and then him to be in the area where he's not meant to be. That's what he was doing, And my mother was on to me, you have to come and visit him, I said, and I'm not going to visit him. But I planned, she nied me one day, and I planned to go up to see him. And so I went up to Castlereagh. My 2 kids and my ex-partner was meant to come up with me at the time, but they pulled out. So I drove up to Castlereagh, and we get up to the visiting, the dog, whatever,
sniffing or whatever,
and check for drugs and stuff like that. So I went into the room. So there's a room with it, where he sits one side, and I sit the other side,
the table's going along with the divider in the middle,
And so he was giving out about crap, and he says, I asked Willie for €50 last week, and he wouldn't give it. And I said, this don't sound right. Willie wouldn't give him €50. So Willie, I says, why would he not give €50? Oh, I don't know, he just wouldn't give him whatever. And I says, what did you want the money for? And he says, stuff.
That's why.
But then I said, when you're caught in that moment, you're saying, stuff. Is that stuff in the shop? Or what? Because you've
what kind of stuff, like?
Because my mother's telling me he's off all drugs.
Yeah, he's off
don't
all...
touch anything, you know what I mean? So that's the only reason I went up to see him. He says, no, a bit of smoke. I said, you wanted it for smoke?
Tobacco,
okay.
like?
No, smoke. Smoke that time.
Yeah.
Weed or hash or whatever.
Marijuana.
I says, officer, says, here, can you leave me out there, please? And I walked away.
Yeah.
I walked out because...
But I find as well now, especially with my own aunt, she has sons there who indulge in cannabis or whatever else they're doing. And all you ever hear is, that young fella doesn't do drugs, all he does is smoke a bit of weed. That's all you get nowadays, like it's nothing. And this is coming from people who grew up in like you said, back in Hillside, and before Hillside, back in the times where they were still mostly in shelter tents. And for them to be able to say, well, they're not really doing anything, they're just smoking a bit of weed.
See, it's different times in the sense of, in Hillside, it was hash back then.
Hash, yeah.
I think I only remember, and I know you say you're not that innocent, but I've only ever seen hash once, and that was from your Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
And we were kids, like.
Yeah.
And no, twice actually. Once when I was a child with Tom, obviously, not smoking or anything. He had it like that. I only seen it twice in my lifetime. And back then, like hash was like
gold. It's like
of heroin today. That's how strong it was thought of, that you shouldn't be doing it, and how it like. And now you hear I don't smoke a bit of weed.
Yeah, that's all you hear. Yeah.
So how times has flicked around, like, is that
it's become normalised.
Yeah, well,
where it shouldn't have been.
Drink was one thing. Back then it was a bit of hash. If someone had hash, or not very often you would hear it, and that's been honest with you. Drink obviously was everywhere around us, when we were growing up. To now, so there's so much money within travellers. Even the poor travellers has money.
Yeah.
I do say to people, there's no poor travellers anymore.
They all have money.
There's not. They all have money. They're all, they know how to get money. They know how to. So.
And again, with the thing of empathy, when it comes to the travellers and money, whether it be from their scrap dealing or their drug dealing or whatever else they're doing, it comes to the lines of, more than likely, they're not doing it themselves. they're simply just collecting the money. Where they have, like, there's a fellow up there over the wall who has a young fellow working for him, who, to my knowledge, doesn't get paid. There's multiple drug dealers who are simply getting the drugs in, dividing them, and giving them to other fellas to walk out around the streets with. And that's where it's like, the money's coming back to him and they're getting a small share, but they're taking all the risk. So there's no empathy, there's no compassion, there's no such thing as saying, well, he's doing this and I'm getting the money and he's only getting a small profit and he's taking all the risk.
Greed.
It's just greed. The greed has
that's
taken over.
That's the change within travellers. You know, the change, like, there's so much change in travellers now. Like, you wouldn't, like, I meet my own family, some of my own family along the road, they wouldn't even wave at you, put up your hand to you. They would have, it's because you, I suppose, you know, myself and Willie would have been expected to be alcoholics or druggies or because of our upbringing.
Yeah, but you're not.
And to see, like, he's doing well in life, I have a job, I'm doing okay in life, to see that success, and it is success because to come from Hillside
And for to
come through what you come through
own
in
your own
life,
house,
and to move on, like, and better yourself.
for to come from council houses where you don't pay rent to owning your own house.
Yeah,
It just goes to show, like, it can be done. No matter what upbringing you have, it can be done.
I suppose probably for me was a lot of it was luck. You know what I always say to young lads, if you're going out working, it's important. The most important thing is you turn up every week and you turn up on time. When I was started Foroige at first, I was only doing the Friday night soccer, voluntarily at the time. And I was working in O'Sullivan Hansbury Kinney in a car wash from 9 till 6. And so I had 15 minutes to get up here to do the volunteer work. But I never missed that work. I was always up 15 minutes before it kicked off. So we'd kick off at 6:30. I'd be here 15:15. I'd be ready for when the kids come to the door. Then you build that trust with people. People know you're reliable. They'll source or suss out within a period of time, are you a good person or are you what you are?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And from that then, people is more inclined to kind of look out for you or help you. I know I have one work colleague here, is she's 17, 18 years here with me now. She's always minded me in the sense of there was nothing that I wasn't neglected for anything. You know, she'd always make sure, well, you're entitled to a phone now, you're working for Foroige, your own work phone. You're entitled to this, you're entitled to that, and make sure you get it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people, if you're on the right path, people will help you or guide you, even though, you know, you're not educated as they are, but they would always help you out. Do you know what I mean? So you will fall into something by chance. Are you going to take it? Are you not? I was lucky. I took it. I love my job. It's not even a job really. It's you come up here, you play pool, you interact with kids. You know, it's not a job. It's really, you know what I mean. All day you're spending time here. It's not really a stressful job, you know. So you last a long time in a job. I would say to anyone, especially young travellers, is education and find something you like. Because there's nothing worse being in a job that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because you won't last. Do you know? And I was lucky I got a chance, I suppose, in life, and I took it. You know, there's a lot of people probably got that chance and didn't take it. Do you know?
Looking back, probably wish that they did.
Well, now, looking at it now, probably, yes, would say I had that opportunity, you know. I should have took it. So, yeah, it's kind of...
So that's what it boils down to. Education again. Education is key, and it's also a ticket to anywhere in the world. Once you have your education, you can go anywhere.
Education is vitally important now, more than ever, because of every job. Like, where before I could go in and fix a fella's car brakes or take a stripping engine out or do stuff like that. You could have done that one time. You can't do that now. You have to have paperwork to show that you're qualified to do that. So that's the way we're going. That's the way we're heading. We're heading more and more down that way, right? So for me to get someone in to fix a tap in my house, he has to be a plumber, qualified plumber with paperwork.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, if you're not qualified, and we are moving forward, it's getting more and more like that. If we're not educated or we're not qualified, where does it leave us?
Yeah.
It leaves us in a stage where we'll have to go drug dealing, and we'll have to go into criminality.
For money, yeah.
Yeah, to survive. That's the way we're leaving ourselves and our kids. So as much as I would even say to you, third level education is not hard now. There's a lot of help. And there's a lot of people worse off than a lot of young travellers now is able to read and write and do stuff.
Yeah.
Like back then, my mother couldn't sign her name. My grandmother couldn't sign her name. They just couldn't. And a lot of people couldn't even sign their name. It was an X. And we've moved on from that.
I know young fellas today that still can't read and write.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because what happened was, when they were in school, either the parents weren't sending them on a regular basis, or else they were pulling them out completely for years.
Yeah.
Like, I know a young fella after his grandfather passed, missed the whole year of school. Like, well, what has that got to do with school? A year. And he missed, I think it was 3rd class or 4th class. And when you're transitioning, especially from second, which is really just basically getting you ready for your communion, is basically all second classes, to the bigger classes which are preparing you for secondary school. How can you be ready for secondary school when you're missing primary school? It just doesn't work, it doesn't connect, and it's all down to the parents. And that again comes from when they were young, there wasn't a big push on education. So they're looking down their children down and saying, well, school doesn't really matter for him, send them on. So it just goes to show again.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's got to do with, as you said there, they didn't go to school or their parents didn't go to school or whatever like that. And the knock-on effect is the same with work at the minute is, if you're not in a house where there's where you see your father or mother going out at whatever time in the morning out to do the day's work, the knock-on effect is probably you're not going to do it neither.
Yeah.
Because it's not driven into you. I spoke to a lot of settled community, and it's just natural to understand that you're doing 3rd level education.
Yeah.
It's just normal. It's not like you're a big hero for doing it. It's just normal. That's what you have to do. That's what's
expected of you.
Yeah. And you see young travellers and their parents is just doing the exact. There's always a knock-on effect. The knock-on effect is their children, their children's children, their children. So there's just a circle, and we keep going around and around it. But we have to change it.
It has to be broken.
We have to change it, and our generation now has time and should be able to do it, and we have the supports to do it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That was it with Martin Mcdonagh there from the Eastside Foroige project. Thanks very much for listening.
This is
The Stall, the Whidden podcast with your host, PJ Mongan.